can make a difference.
I 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 will.
I can make a difference.
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 I can make a difference. One life at a time.
I can make a difference. I have an upstart company called Frustrated Farmgirl.
You find the reasons for the life you're living.
And we make organic, fair trade, handmade soap. It started a few years ago as a blog. The name Frustrated Farmgirl initially came from the fact that I was beekeeping in my backyard. I had an organic garden, I had chickens, so I was a little frustrated over the size of my backyard. Over time, we decided to sell our house to free us up to do soul-satisfying, redemptive work. As I learned more about trafficking and some of the root causes of poverty, the frustration shifted from the size of my backyard to issues surrounding poverty and human trafficking.
Becomes a story that can heal so.
I choose 3 words to live by every year. In 2010, it was write, pray, and learn. So I wanted to pray about where God would have me using my gifts and abilities. I was wanting to learn more about the craft of soap making, and I also chose a few books to read. I was sitting in bed reading Gary Haugen's Terrify No More, and I told my husband, I'm like, it's like reading a horror story. I'm like, I feel like I'm reading this book between splayed fingers. And my sweet baby girl, 15 feet from me in her bedroom, is sleeping the sleep of a child who's never had to deal with that. And I have a 9.5-year-old boy. And so between the thought of the sex trafficking and then reading about the child soldiers in Uganda, it's hard to breathe knowing that that's going on. I had to do something. So that's when I looked into the whole fair trade thing and started to look into the possibility of doing poverty alleviation and fighting trafficking at the same time as doing our business. It's a very, very different business model. The margins are way less. When you make a commitment from the people who harvest all the way down the supply chain that you're committing to the people being treated fairly and having a fair wage, it's more expensive. I mean, it would be very easy to sit down in a week, have in your kitchen the ingredients to make a batch of soap. But to find truly ethical ingredients, it took us almost 2 years. There's an environmental bottom line for us. Poverty makes people vulnerable to trafficking. There are the people that sell their kids, but I think the more common narrative is that people don't have a choice. Somebody comes into town and offers your child shelter, clothing, and education when you barely are keeping them fed. And then you think about the bonded labor, where it goes down from generation to generation and your children are born into slavery because you had a $30 medical bill 20 years ago that you couldn't pay, so you went to this guy and got a loan, and all of that goes back to poverty. People didn't have a choice, or they would have done something different. Here's the lemongrass and lavender, which is what we made today. Camomiles, patchouli, and sage. It's about giving people a dignified way to feed their own families, where they're lifting themselves out of poverty. It's not charity. I don't know any people who are rich from doing fair trade. But if we can work our whole lives and one family doesn't have to make that devastating choice, I'm good. I'm great with that.